My name is Anita, and I'm the president of the Education Club. Thank you for everyone to join us to the special live concert, Rags, Blue, and All That Jazz in the Pack. So I hope everyone enjoyed the show. To do so, please turn off all your electronics to prevent distractions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Anita's done a lot of work to put this concert together, so thank you, Anita. And thank you for everybody coming here today. My Turn students, Melissa Riggio students, education students, Psych 24 students, and faculty and staff. Thank you. So we're delighted to invite Dr. Muir back for the third year running. And Dr. Muir is an expert, internationally acclaimed pianist, and particularly in rags and blues and jazz that you're going to hear today. Now, some of you may not be familiar with those genres, but I hope you would really enjoy it today, and you'll find out more about those genres later on. So the New York Times described Dr. Muir's work as potent, so I think you're going to have a real treat. I do want to just thank the Performing Arts Center and Student Life and the Department of Behavioral Sciences for helping put this concert on. And I'm going to hand you over to Cassie, who's going to introduce Peter.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Carpenter. Hi, everybody. My name is Cassie. I am a member of the Education Club. Although you may not be familiar with ragtime, blues, and jazz music today, they are the roots of American music today. You will have a chance to ask questions later on. It is now my privilege, my honor, and a pleasure to welcome back Mr. Dr. Peter Muir. Please give him a very warm welcome.
Good afternoon. How are you all?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay, here we go. rags, blues, and all that jazz. For the next few minutes, we're going to be exploring three genres of American music, three styles of American music from 100+ years ago, a long time ago. But those three styles, ragtime, blues, and jazz, are at the roots of everything that has happened since in terms of popular music. And you cannot put on the radio today without, or buy a CD or an iTunes or anything, without listening to music that is in some way, directly or indirectly, inspired by these three styles we're going to look at today: rags, blues, and jazz. Well, we started off with ragtime, and what I played you was one of the most popular pieces of ragtime. Ragtime was a style that developed in the 1890s, really a long time ago, 1890s, and was the popular music, the music that kids were going crazy about in about 1900. It was a totally new style of music, and it died out at around the time of the First World War, at around 1914. So it had about a 20-year popularity, but it really was tremendously popular. Now, just as the kids were going wild about it, the parents were getting very upset about it, because they were saying, this is crazy music, you cannot possibly listen to it, just as parents sometimes do today with the new styles that are coming out today. Have any of you experienced that? Like your grandparents say, oh no, we should have back the earlier styles, these new. That's what was happening then, back in 1900. And the question is why? What was so shocking about that style? Was anybody shocked when I played that piece, which incidentally was written in 1899, the Maple Leaf Rag? Was anybody shocked when I played it just then? No, right? Doesn't sound at all shocking, does it? But back then it did. And the reason is because of something called syncopation. And syncopation is part of the rhythm of the music. It was new in ragtime, and it stayed in American music ever since. So syncopation is tremendously important. Here's what syncopation is. We take a regular beat, like that, and I'm playing both hands of the piano. I'm playing with a regular beat, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to move one of the beats slightly earlier. Listen. Did you get that? Here's the same music without the syncopation. Doesn't sound very interesting, but as soon as I do that little rhythmical upset, the syncopation with my right hand, it immediately gets more interesting. You get the idea? That's syncopation. That's syncopation. And in that piece that I just played, there was syncopation all over the place. For instance, in this section, here's that little riff again without syncopation. Doesn't sound so interesting, doesn't sound so catchy, right? So what the syncopations do is they make the music sound very catchy. And that was totally new in the music of that era. In the music of that era, everything was kind of very sedate. They wrote music like this. Sort of music the kids, the parents were growing up with was music, waltzes and things like that, much more tame. And so this music, in comparison, seemed remarkably sort of exciting and innovating. And the kids were excited by it, the parents were upset. I'm going to play you probably the most famous piece of ragtime ever written. This was written by Scott Joplin, an African-American composer who worked in the Midwest, and was really one of the great composers of American music. He wrote also that first rag that I played, the Maple Leaf Rag. This is The Entertainer. And you say, oh, I don't know, any ragtime. Who's heard ragtime before? Who's heard some ragtime before? Quite a lot of you, actually. Put up your hands if you haven't heard any ragtime before. Right, but let me ask you, does this sound familiar? So some of you said you hadn't heard ragtime. That sounds familiar. That is the most famous piece of ragtime ever written. It's The Entertainer. So sometimes we know these styles, we just don't know what they're called, right? And here, I'll just show you the syncopation here. Here's the syncopation in this. This is the same melody without syncopation. And it sounds kind of pretty, right? But it doesn't sound terribly interesting. Put the syncopation in, those little rhythmical quirks. And it has this whole kind of charm to it, okay? Now, if you know this piece, you'll probably only know that section. There are actually 4 sections in this piece, and they all are beautiful and very charming, which is why this whole piece became tremendously popular. This is The Entertainer by Scott Joplin. And so we move from ragtime to blues. Blues really started in the early 1900s and became popular around the time of about 1915, 1916, around 100 years ago was when blues became really popular. Now, you've all heard blues, right? Has everybody heard blues? Most people have heard blues, right? But I'm going to be playing you now the very earliest blues to show you those styles. And I'm going to be talking about one thing particularly, which is what we call blue notes. And to show this, I'm going to play a piece written by the great African-American blues composer, W.C. Handy. And this is a very early blues. It's also one of the most famous blues. It's had very enduring fame. People still record it and still perform it, even though it's more than 100 years old. It was written in 1914, and it's called the St. Louis Blues, okay? And I'm just going to play you the melody at the beginning to show you a particular feature. It starts like this. Okay, let me just play the melody for you. Now what that has, that again, which kind of shocked people or excited them, depending on their point of view, just like ragtime, was what are called blue notes, which are of course associated with blues. What are blue notes? Well, blue notes is when you have what we call the major, which is always thought of as being happy in music, and the minor, which is thought of as being sad, and you put them together. And what you get is kind of happy and sad. It sounds like this. Here's major. Here's minor. But now I'm going to do them together. Listen. And that makes a little bit of a weird sound. Listen to it at the very beginning of this melody. Can you hear the blue note there? There it was. Ba-dum. That's a blue note. And that was a revolutionary sound in music at that time. And it stayed with blues ever since and influenced many other styles too. So this is a blue note. And also here. And this one too. So this whole piece is saturated with blue notes associated with blues. Okay? So this is the St. Louis Blues. I will do a vocal on it. Now the thing about blues is traditionally it's kind of sad in mood, right? Did you know that about blues? Like traditionally it's about people breaking up relationships and all that kind of thing. In this song, what's happened is the guy, that's me in the song, not actually in real life, his lady just left him for another man. So he says, I hate to see the evening sun go down, 'cause my baby, she done left this town. Can you say that for me? Say, I hate to see the evening sun go down. Just say that.
I
hate to see the evening sun go down. Now say it again. I hate to see the evening sun go down. Then the next line is, 'cause my baby, she done left this town. 'Cause my baby, she done left this town. Why don't you sing it with me? It goes like this. I'll sing it through for you. Here we go. I hate to see the evening sun go down. Then you repeat it. I hate to see the evening sun go down. 'Cause my baby, she done left this town. That's how it sounds. Try it again. Who thinks they can't sing? Put up your hand if you think you can't sing. Cannot sing. Put up your hand. Okay. Cannot sing. Who put up your hand? Okay. Can you prove yourself wrong this time? Here we go. Ready? Nice and loud for me. See, you're all singing blues. It sounds fantastic. day I die. Thank you. Now, the early blues were all like that. They were kind of slow and kind of like heavy in feeling. But once blues moved to the kind of bars and the juke joints and places, it became more kind of like entertainment music, and it speeded up. And a style of blues evolved called boogie woogie. Have you heard of boogie woogie? Yeah? Okay. And in the 1920s, really. And I'm going to play you a wonderful piece of boogie woogie now called Pinetop's Boogie Woogie. It was written by a fellow called Pinetop Smith, Clarence Pinetop Smith. He was an African-American pianist and singer who recorded this at the age of 21, very young, to have a hit. And just a few months later, he was unfortunately killed in a gunfight in Chicago. It was very, very tragic, and it's a really wonderful piece. Boogie Woogie is made of riffs. A riff is a figure like this, which you just repeat over again, over and over. And on top of that, you add some right hand. But that left hand just keeps going. And the riff idea has been incredibly influential in so many styles of popular music since. And it really, in a way, goes back to boogie woogie and blues of that era. Anyway, without further ado, this is Pinetop's Boogie Woogie. Thank you, Pinetop's Boogie Woogie. So we've done rags, we've done blues, now we move to jazz. Jazz emerged around 1917, just around about 100 years ago. And as soon as it hit, it became tremendously popular, and of course has stayed tremendously popular ever since. I'm going to play you one of the very first jazz pieces. This was a number recorded by a group called the Original Dixieland Jazz Band, who were basically the first jazz band to record. They were from New Orleans, which is where jazz started. And this is a number called Tiger Rag. So it's called Tiger Rag because ragtime turned into jazz. And so the early jazz pieces were called rags. So it's called Tiger Rag. If you want to know why it's called Tiger, listen to my growls from the piano. Now, as jazz developed, the style evolved was called swing. And this is swing. If you just take that last number, the Tiger Rag. That's with swing. Without swing, it sounds like this. Can you hear how straight that sounds? But if I go, that kind of bounce in it is what they call the swing, and that really defines jazz, the jazz style. And I'm going to finish this recital with two numbers by one of my favorite jazz musicians. This is the great Thomas Fats Waller, who was an African-American singer, pianist, composer, band leader, actor, really a lot of things. Incredibly talented man. Really just a wonderful performer and entertainer from that era. He led a very tragic life, and in fact died at the age of just 39 because of problems associated with alcoholism. He was very unhappy. But when you hear his recordings, you can hardly believe it because he sounds so joyful when he records, and his music is so upbeat. Really extraordinary. In 1928, he was starring in a show on Broadway, which for an African American in that era was very unusual. called Honey's show. Anyway, but and for that he wrote a number which became his most famous song. This is called Ain't Misbehavin', and it's a very charming song. No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. I know for certain, the one I love, I'm through with flirting, it's just you that I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. Like Jack Horner in the corner, don't go nowhere, what do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for, believe me. I don't stay out late, no place to go. I'm home about 8, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. Now, Fats Waller invented a new style of piano playing. It was called stride piano. And it's called stride because if you watch my left hand, it actually does kind of stride. Watch this. Can you see that? Those big leaps are like someone striding. Like this. Now you know about rags, blues, and all that jazz. I'm coming to my final item in today's concert, but before I do, I would like to make a couple of announcements. Firstly, I believe that we do have CDs and books for sale there. If you would like to find out about events that I'm associated with, please sign up on the mailing list there, but please write very clearly because we don't always read it, your email address, and we'll put you on our newsletter. Lastly, but most importantly, I'd like to give some thank yous. Thank you to the college here for having me back, and especially to Dr. Carpenter, my friend. Thank you. I hope you learned something, and I hope not just that you've learned something, you've actually kind of enjoyed yourself too. And if this in any way, shape or form opens you up to music from Bygone's era, which I think is in no way inferior to the music that we have now, it's just very different, I will have done my job. Anyway, I'd like to finish with another piece by the great Fats Waller. This is a piece that he wrote in 1928, the same year that he wrote that Ain't Misbehavin' I just did. And for some reason, which I don't know why exactly, it's called Alligator Crawl. I think it might be because it starts like this. And to me, I can imagine a kind of alligator crawling out the swamp or whatever. Anyway, thank you for coming. Here we go.
sign up for more information about Dr. Peter Muir's work. He's also director of the Institute for Music and Health. So if you're interested in therapeutic use of music, do sign up. Okay, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.